This is Koukles. I'm Patricia, imperfectly Patricia, and I'd like to start off our first episode of the Koukles podcast by introducing the other three girls who make up Koukles podcast. So first we have Despina, the sweet Greek.
Yeah.
And Laurel, nomadic homebody.
Hi.
And you might recognize their voices from their Christuyana lives and more recently their Cafaneo lives. And they're both from here in the States. And then we have Danae, original Vosrio.
Yes, as.
And she's the Nifi behind the husband-wife Greek brand based out of Canada. We are so excited to have our Koukles podcast. And I don't know, I'm just going to address it. Is it not completely weird that we have never met each other before? We are not like, IRL contacts with each other.
I love how this is true.
Very true.
No, I love that you say it like that because in IRL, like most like podcasts you like listen to, like people know each other. They're sitting on a couch together, and here we are like everywhere around the world. But I think that's so telling of who the Greeks are.
The North American Greeks that we have here. That's who makes up our Koukles.
Definitely telling like of who Greeks in Northern America have become, like to find a sense of community. You know, we find it everywhere. We're like, if you're Greek, you're my best friend forever.
And being Greek is what brought us together, ultimately.
The connection.
I mean, Danae, you said it perfectly when we had been chatting. I had brought up the idea that, like, if you girls weren't Greek, there's no way I would be doing this. Like, I would be finding this so weird to be FaceTiming and collaborating and, doing something like this together with people that I've never met before. I would find it so strange. But the fact that we're all Greek, I'm like, you know what? Come take a tour of my house. Let me tell you my personal stories. Like completely letting my guard down only because of the fact that we're all Greek. Danae, you have said before, like, it's like we're, ikogenia.
Yeah, we're totally like cousins or something. Like, we just never met. We haven't met yet, but we will one day.
That's just like a special connection that we have all together, being Greek North Americans, Greek Canadians, Greek Americans.
It's like, if you needed a kidney, I got you. And I don't need like any prerequisites. Like,
I'm negative, just so you guys know, if you need me.
I don't even know my blood type.
I don't either. I don't.
I'm like B positive, so I got you, girls.
That's very your personality, isn't it?
Yeah, because you be positive. You say
positive. Catalava, smart.
Yes.
Be positive, duh.
I'm really enjoying these like little like COVID snaps because the Clubhouse brought us together. No, not us, but the Clubhouse brought us together as like a Greek community online during the pandemic. And then the second wave with the Omicron, this has come about. And it's like the minutes of stillness, we keep finding things that are building within our community, and we keep needing a sense to connect, right? Like, it's like you were saying, like, you'd have a tour of my house. Like, have you ever like invited a Greek person over and they start like going through your things and it's totally fine? And it's like, you're like, you don't have a problem with it for some reason. But like if a stranger came into your house or a boyfriend came into your house and started rifling through your drawers, you'd be like, excuse me, do we need to have a boundary talk? But Greek people do it. You're like, I don't know how to argue. I don't like, is it because we don't know how to argue with Greek people because we'll probably lose or it'll like be like 3 hours later? Or is it just like, whatever, it's fine?
I think it's like our philoxenia.
Like with Greeks, we kind of expect that there's going to be no boundaries. So I guess we have no expectations, but
totally.
It's just like you kind of are like, oh, but I have to be the hostess with the mostess always. Like I have, like this represents the family. I can't have them be going to church and telling their tia, who knows, like my priest at my church in San Diego is from Buffalo, New York, and taught my like Thea, who lives in Pasadena, Greek, back in the day from Buffalo, New York. They're on like, and then he's now in San Diego. That can get back to my family.
It's a lot of pressure. It's a lot of pressure, though. The
news travels fast.
Yes.
Like, I wonder if we do it for like the sense of community or the pressure of it. You know what I mean?
But I do agree with the sense of community. I remember when I was in boot camp. The first week of boot camp is one of the most difficult. You'll have recruits actually doing things to try to get out of being in the Navy because it's like they change their mind instantly. They see how awful it is. And the chaplain of the boot camp in Great Lakes was Greek. His name was Lieutenant Commander Yanuli. And he recognized that I was Greek, my name and everything. And he pulled me aside. He said, listen, if you ever need to call your parents, You come tell them you need to go see the chaplain and I got you. So he gave me like unlimited calls where you get like 5 minutes a week to like call home and tell mom and dad you're fine. But with him, he was like, you're Greek. Come on, come in my office. You're good. And I'd talk to family for hours.
That's beautiful. And like, that's an amazing thing with our community, especially like I was saying here in the States, in Canada, we have our own little micro community of Greek Americans, Greek Canadians, that we have like that bond with each other. I mean, even, I don't know about you guys, but like we use a lot of slang in my household, like words that I feel like Yaya has made up, like caro is instead of amaxi or автοκίνητο. But like if I say this same word to any other Greek American, they know exactly what I'm talking about. But if I went to Greece, they'd be looking at me like I had three heads.
You know, yeah, because when you go to Greece, you meet a Greek on the street, like you go to Monoisteraki and someone's like, oh, come back to my house. You're like, no. No, but like,
But you look like a lukumi, so maybe I come. Right?
Especially if they're like, Glikula, Ella, like, sweet, come here. You're like, the metro's that way. Bye. Like, I gotta, like, it's been real nice. Like, please don't talk to my mom if you know her at church. But like, also, I don't want to end up in your fridge. So bye. But like here, you hear all the stories of like, have you ever like been on Bumble swiping and it's like a Greek guy and you're like, oh, we're married. It's fine. It's totally great. We're gonna get married. Great. There's one that's single, not a creeper. Like obviously like been looking for me his whole life because
he already checked 20 boxes.
Like not in like nothing. Literally could like be unemployed, still living with his mother, and you're like, oh yeah, no, we're gonna get married. But you see that in Greece and you're like, I gotta run like the other way. It's just this weird phenomenon, but it's actually really nice. You have Greeks who come from here, who come into the Greek American world that we've created here, the sense of community, and they identify themselves and put themselves in there. And it's like a completely, more concentrated world for them even, where they get to feel that sense of community more so than they do even in Greece.
It's almost like Greek Americans are more Greek. Like more Greek proud Greek, if that makes sense. Like we're waving those flags. We've got that mati flying, In Greece, they just are.
Very true. Yeah, like with our cars. I was driving behind someone the other day. They had on their review mirror, they had the little boxing gloves of their culture. And I remember thinking, like, when I was little growing up, everybody's papu used to have the boxing gloves with the little Greek flag hanging. Like, I was wondering, like, is this as popular in Greece, or is this our way of having our Greek pride here in the States and in Canada?
Oh, it's definitely our way of having our Greek pride, I think.
Yeah.
Totally.
I haven't seen it like that in Greece. Like, they'll have flags on their balcony.
But I also think it's how we identify ourselves, right? Like how we identify ourselves to ourselves. Like, oh, you're me. You're one of us. Let's go get coffee. I got an hour to spare.
Yeah. Well, in Greece, you're Greek. You don't have to let people know that. But here, it is a prideful thing for me to be like, yes, I'm Greek.
I think Greeks in general are just very proud. And it's like, I remember having a conversation with Espen and Laurel, and it was like, we were talking about how it just kind of takes over everything else. Like, I'm half Greek, but it's like, it becomes your whole world. And like, whenever you meet someone, it's like, oh, you're Greek. And it's like, that's the only thing that like really stands out. You know what I mean? And it's like, they somehow, even if they're not Greek, they somehow have a connection and they'll be like, oh, have you tried that Greek restaurant? Or, oh, I've been to Greece before. Classic. Oh, hey, do you know that Greek person that they live in Toronto and they do whatever? And like, and then somehow you know them.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like that happens a lot.
I don't know what's worse is the fact that they ask you if you know the person who's like thousands of miles away, or the fact that we do know the person, because it happens all the time. I want to I want to be offended so badly, but I can't, because I'm like, oh yeah, no, they're related to my tia Panayota through marriage, and we go to all the same family functions, or yeah, they go to my church and their cousin does my hair. Like, there's always some type of connection.
Like, everyone knows everybody. It's insane.
Yeah, that's a creepy thing, actually, I find. Like, when you're like at a family, or not even a Greek function or whatever, and like somebody comes up to you and they know who you are. They're like, oh, is it this Vicky's? And I'm like, how did you know that? I've never seen you in my life. Like, where did you come from? Like, and they're like, oh yeah. Besa na yasti mama. And I'm like, okay, like say hi to your mom, right? For me. And I'm just like, okay. And I'm like, who was that? Who was that? Like, I can't even tell her because I don't even know who that was.
It's like they're everywhere. In like the nicest way though. Like it's like I kind of miss it. Like I strayed away from it for a while because I was like Greek all the time. Like you said, like it takes over. But like you miss it when you don't have it.
It's so true.
Like it actually feels really nice to be included or to be part of a community where like you're missed. Like, we like leave school or whatever and like we don't like the Regina Kings of school and we don't like, the gossip of high school. But once you leave, you're like, wait, I'm not a part of it anymore. Like people don't care about me anymore to talk about me. But then we have church, so it's fine.
And now we have the online Greek community.
Yes, which is amazing. It's like, I don't know about you guys, but like I have found so many Greek people coming out of like everywhere in social media to be completely supportive of me and they don't even know me, which is like a beautiful thing about our community.
I feel exactly the same way, Patricia. It's like all this just love out of nowhere. And I don't even know some of these people at all. And I've never even met them, but it's like they 100% support you and they love what you're doing. Yeah, it's really refreshing.
It's nice because they want to see you like supported. They want to see you thrive simply because you're Greek, which I think is another, phenomenon. But it's like, that's what brought us together was this like, oh, wait, we'd actually get along in real life. Like in IR, like, wait, that's wrong. How does it go?
R&R?
IRL.
Gaia status is coming through, guys. Sorry. If I like saw, for example, like a bracelet of Vostrios or like a keychain of Imperfect. I mean, they're great stuff, so I probably would. But like, would I buy it? And then it's like, oh wait, they're Greek. Yeah, I'm gonna buy this. Like, It literally could be like, skata emojis on a bracelet, and I'd buy it because it's a Greek person. It's not, thank God. And please go to Imperfectly Patricia and Vostrio and look at their amazing jewelry because Renee and Patricia both design it. But my point is that it could literally be.
I get where you're going with this. That like we will go out of our way to support someone from our own community versus like, you might not have an interest in it. All of a sudden, it's Greek. I know like even my baba does that with like movies. He's like, oh, there's a Greek actor. Now we have to watch it. And I'm like, you had no interest in watching this movie. Or, we have a local chain. It's like a Dunkin' Donuts kind of thing nearby. And I was complaining about Starbucks one day. And my dad was like, well, why you don't go to the Greek place? That's where you're spending money at Starbucks, but you could support the Greek brand, which is totally on point, Started switching it up and going there for my coffee in the morning.
Did your dad ever, like at the end of movies, make you sit there and watch the credits and go through each one to see who's Greek? They're Greek.
Absolutely. It's really funny. Tony does like a whole thing on Hoopla Greeks about it, and it's hilarious. It's like he gets called into a room and the guy's like, hold on, I got to see where the Greeks are here. Oh, look, there's a Greek. And he keeps calling and interrupting this person working to be like, look, there's a Greek. Look, there's a Greek. But I think this is also what brings us together too, is that we have these shared memories that are collective memories. It doesn't matter if like you're like in the middle of nowhere with like your one, you don't have a Greek town, you don't have, Greek community around you. You still have these shared collective memories that if you do get dropped in Chicago town or Greece, you fit in really well.
It is crazy that it's like we know so much about each other without ever actually knowing each other.
And it's like we were raised together.
Exactly.
Like I may not have the same memories as you. Like I was not there. We did not experience that together. But I have experienced it one way or another. Or I have a cousin that experienced that same thing. Or I went to a friend's house and experienced that. Like, have you ever like gone to a friend's house to pick her up, like to go partying, like when you're 18 to like 25 and they're still living at their parents' house? And like you go in and it's like, oh, you're leaving? Be safe, be this. But then they're like 15-year-old boy is like leaving out the door and like gets nothing, has been said nothing. Like I'm an only child. So like I never had to experience this, but you guys not being only children, I can relate to that because I literally walked in and was treated like a child of that woman.
And meanwhile, you have to give your parents everybody's phone numbers that's going to be attending, their parents' phone numbers, their pager numbers.
Everyone's emergency contact. God forbid I can't get a hold of you, I want the friend's number, and if I can't get a hold of them, I want their parents' number so I can see what's going on. They worry.
I hate to break it to you guys, but that doesn't stop. It still happens. So I was like, where are you going? Why are you going there? Are you hungry? Did you eat something? And I'm like, Mom, like, I'm okay. Like, I'm good. Well, are you gonna be home late? Don't you have work tomorrow? And I'm like, the list goes on.
Do you ever get the great guilt? But there might not be.
Greek guilt? Yes. Honey, you've met my mom. You've met her.
Cutest. She's really.
I think that's the guilt is instilled in Greek mothers. Like, I don't even know how to explain it, but it's just there, and I don't even know if they sometimes mean it.
Oh no, they don't.
It just naturally flows through them.
It's not guilt, it's reasoning. It's trying to change your perspective so you can understand and not have regrets in your future.
Is that what it is?
That's the other side of it, eh? Got it. Another perspective.
I thought it was to give me anxiety and have me second guess every single thing I do with my life, every life choice, and then make me have anxiety about it.
Do you find that it gets worse? Because like I've gotten to the age where I'm like, I'm done. I'm like, I do have like the two perspectives. Like, yes, 2 + 2 is 5. I'm not going to argue with you. That's how it is. Like, I'm good. Like, we're not going to have this conversation. But with my mother, for some reason, I am all about like, I'm just like, Mom, we need to have this conversation. Here are my boundaries. And she's like, I didn't mean it that way. I'm so sorry. And I'm like, there's no other way to mean this. I don't understand. I just feel like it gets worse and worse.
I remember in high school, like, do you remember when like low-rise jeans were a thing?
How were they ever
see the hip bones?
I am so happy they are not around anymore and they are not stylish anymore. But I just remember when like I would wear those and it would be like I'd come over to my yaya and papu's house and like I'd come over, with my friends or whatever for lunch, because like my yaya would be like, come for lunch and what do you want to eat and whatever. So we would go and then like, my papu would be sitting there and he'd be like, excuse me, your creator are showing. And I'm like, what the actual beep? Like your creata are showing? That means, okay, for those of you who don't know what that means your meat are showing. Your meat. Okay? And after that line, it was, you better be careful because the dogs is gonna bite you. What dogs? What dogs? Okay?
The men, they're dogs. They're dogs.
Meanwhile, I'm like grade 8 and I'm like, what in the world? What are you talking about? Like,
I would have been at the hunting store, like buying bear spray or something, like so paranoid that the dogs are gonna come after me to bite my meat.
They're gonna eat my meat.
Did you ever take like their like what they said to you like super seriously? Like it was actually a thing. Like my grandma used to tell me like Jane the Virgin status, like with her little flower and the gardenia. But like she was like, your virginity is like a diamond. You can spruce it up, but you can't give it away. I legit thought I had a diamond. Legit, like I was 8 years old. I legit thought it was a diamond. Some people would call it a flower or whatever. I was like, what are you talking about? And I was like, it's a diamond. Like you can, but like you can't like, and I don't want to give diamonds away. I totally understood that analogy. She knew who she was. She knew the person she was talking to, man. But like grandparents would say things and you'd like take it so literally. And I don't understand how they did that. And I want to terrify grandchildren like that.
I don't know, man. I got like the opposite from your grandma. Okay, so when I had my first boyfriend, my like straight up was like, Danai, are you and that boy together doing things? And I'm like, no, God, yeah, what the hell, man? No, what? Like, what? Ew. Meanwhile, like, and I'm like, no. And she's like, okay, because if you have the sex one time, you're gonna want it all the time. And I'm like, I was like scarred. I was like, oh my gosh, like what is happening? Meanwhile, my mom was like completely opposite. Like, you know, like we didn't really talk about that stuff. But here's my yaya, like telling me to like, you know, just so you know, remember, if you do it, you're gonna want it all the time.
That was my mom. My mom was like that.
Oh,
But was she saying it as a deterrent? You know what I mean? Like,
I think she was saying once you pop, the fun don't stop. I don't know.
Yeah.
yeah, I mean,
Like,
but
I
that
think
would
it was,
just
like-
make me want to go do it.
But like, do you ever notice that they gave us like advice that's totally relevant and so smart? And you're like, thank you for that advice. But like, could you have maybe prefaced it that like this would have been relevant between these ages? Like, when I talk to kids now, I'm like, look, this is what you need to know. You're like 8 now, but this is what you need to know at 13. This is what you need to know at 16. This is what you need to know at 18, 13. Like, you know, these ages, this is where this information is valuable. Like, I feel like I was given way too much valuable information when I was too young to digest it properly or even understand life.
But at the same time, you have to understand that like our parents, like at least I remember with my dad, like he was working at 5 years old. He was walking wine bottles for miles. He would bus a Greek restaurant so they could have food and eat. Like, so they grew up differently. One cousin quit school at 14 so he could help his mom pay the bill. But it's different for us now. So they have that mentality of these are life lessons that you need to know. And for us, it's like, yeah, but that's not happening yet.
They lived their life so that we could live our life the way we do. We have what we have because of the sacrifices that they made for us. We wouldn't be here on the lives and doing a podcast if it wasn't for everything that they put into it.
Well, also, all of us are children of immigrants. We're all first, second, third generation. And that is another part of it that brings us together. I think it's another reason why when we say, oh, you're Greek, we're like, oh, we're Greek too, because we all have the benefits of the community, but we all also have the sacrifices of the community. And the sacrifices our foreparents made.
With today's climate, everything going on, especially with COVID, and feeling alone growing up as an only child, ironically, in the Greek community, but without a Greek community, I love the fact that this has brought us together, that me getting in contact with Laurel and Laurel putting all of us together, like not only is it a sense of family, but sisterhood. Adelphimo.
Yes, Koukles. I love it. I love the Koukles that have come together. I love the bond. It is beautiful. And I cannot wait to see this blossom and continue. And hopefully, you know, everyone listening, go head over to Spotify, subscribe KouklesPodcast, head over to Instagram and follow us, KouklesPodcast on Instagram. And then make sure you go follow all 4 of us so that you can kind of get an idea of what's to come. And we look forward to bringing some more episodes your way.
FILAKIA!
FILAKIA!
Ade, bye.